Your people are starving, you've got no economy, you've got no trade. But in the Korean context, it has a profound resonance because Korean history is one of invasion and all sorts of abuse from major powers. So the North Koreans turned this history around and said, we're not going to take it anymore. And for Koreans, there is a very profound thrill that someone would have the guts to stand up and be like that.
Kim Il-sung used Juche ideology to run North Korea for half a century and to transform himself into the father figure of the nation. He ruled with an iron fist and wielded absolute power. When Kim Il-sung died in 1994, he left behind a traumatized nation. His son, Kim Jong-il, took power in the world's first communist dynastic handover. Following in his father's footsteps, Kim Jong-il rules by fear and rarely listens to his own advisors. Hwang Jong-yap was a high-ranking party official.
When I proposed something, he would pretend to listen at first, but in the end, he would never listen.
Over the years, Kim Jong-il has used the Juche philosophy to unify his people in opposition to all things foreign, especially during times of hardship like famine. But personally, he indulges in luxurious imports. He has a 20,000 title private movie collection, a fleet of more than 100 imported limousines, and at one point was the largest single customer of Hennessy cognac in the world. Still, he uses the Juche ideology of self-reliance to justify his rule and crush all dissent. And one way he's held on to power is through the use of concentration camps to strike fear into the hearts of the people. Places like this, a 50-kilometer by 40-kilometer long work camp known simply as Number 22, are scattered throughout North Korea. Camps can be the size of small cities. Number 22 reportedly holds up to 50,000 people, and many who enter don't leave alive. Defector An Myung-chol was a guard at Number 22. He escaped through China and is one of the few guards to tell his story to the outside world. Though satellites provide the only photographs of his camp, An remembers every detail.
When we were educated as guards, we were told not to think of the prisoners as humans. The moment you enter a North Korean prison camp, you're no longer a human being. If you think you're a human being, there's no way you can survive in the camps.
An saw his fellow guards beat and even shoot prisoners for minor offenses, like searching for mice to eat. Food was always scarce.
I remember seeing kids fighting over a corn kernel they found inside cow dung. A cow had eaten corn, and the children fought over it, and eventually washed it in the water and ate it.
Camp 22 is a family camp. The people there didn't actually commit crimes themselves, but were the family members of those who allegedly did. If a North Korean citizen simply complained to a friend about that month's rations or did anything else that could be seen as questioning the regime, his entire extended family, children, parents, cousins, could end up in Camp 22 for life.
The people didn't know how or why they ended up there.
Camps, especially those like number 22, which house the families of the accused, keep people loyal to the regime. And when someone tries to defect from the country, their family often faces death or imprisonment. Despite the cost, many people are so desperate they try to escape anyway. Most go through China, which shares a long border with North Korea. For years, especially after the famine in the late 90s, missionaries and paid smugglers have led desperate people out. Tens of thousands of North Korean refugees have come through China. Many are led out by Pastor Chun, a South Korean living in Seoul who risks his life bringing people to freedom.
Before the group makes its move, I tell them which parts are dangerous or what to look out for. They could potentially be thrown into prison camps or executed. So everyone is extremely nervous and frightened. You can never tell when you're going to be arrested by the Chinese police, or if you're going to be shot while crossing the border.
While some continue on to South Korea or elsewhere, those who remain in China live marginal existences and are under constant threat of repatriation back to North Korea. Though thousands have snuck out of North Korea through China, only a handful have successfully crossed the DMZ into freedom. One of the few to escape directly to South Korea is a 25-year-old student living in Seoul, Ju Sung-il.
I personally believe that I made it through with the guidance of an invisible hand because of God's will.
Ju used to be a guard in charge of a propaganda broadcasting booth on the North Korean side of the DMZ.
My position was not an easy one to get. It required extremely strong loyalty and belief in the system. And not one mistake would be tolerated.
One night, a soldier working for Ju broadcast the wrong message. He told the enemy that the next day was a holiday in the north.
If I had stayed, I would have been under great threat from the North Korean government. I believed my chances of survival were zero.
Before the authorities arrested him, Ju and his friend tried to escape the only way they could, across the DMZ. They drugged their fellow guards and came to a series of deadly electric fences used to keep people inside North Korea. Ju thought he had a plan to divert the current long enough for them to squeeze by, but he wasn't sure it would work.
Even though I had worked on electric fences before, I wasn't confident that I had mastered the skills, so I felt scared.
Ju assembles a special plastic pole he stole from an equipment shed. He takes off his clothes so he can slip under the fence more easily and wraps the end of the pole in case any electricity flows to the handle. Ju needs to hook the pole onto the electric fences in order to temporarily divert the electricity into the ground. One slip can be disastrous.
Once the electric flow is cut off, there's only about 2 to 3 minutes that it can hold. After that, you can easily burn to death on the fences, so we had to be extremely careful.
He uses wooden stakes to push up the fence.
I could still